the golden rays of dawn, when the world awoke with a whisper of promise, Prophet Ibrahim, his cherished wife Sarah, and their trusted companion LUT embarked on a journey that would forever alter the course of their lives. Their footsteps traced the ancient paths of Mesopotamia, winding through valleys and over hills, guided by the unseen hand of the Almighty. At an appointed time, a divine message descended upon LUT. The celestial call bestowed upon him the mantle of prophethood, illuminating his soul with a sacred duty to carry forth the word of God to the people of Sodom. As the weight of his calling settled upon his shoulders, LUT turned to his beloved companions and said, "The time has come for me to heed the call of the heavens." His words carried on the wings of faith. "I must journey to the city of Sodom, where the souls of men cry out for guidance." With heavy hearts and tearful goodbyes, Ibrahim and Sarah bid LUT farewell. They knew that the path ahead would be fraught with trials and tribulations, but they also knew that LUT carried within him the light of divine guidance, a beacon of hope amidst the shadows of darkness. And so, with a final embrace and a silent prayer upon his lips, LUT set forth on his journey as he ventured into the unknown. When LUT arrived at the city of Sodom, he sought refuge amidst its bustling streets. In the shadow of its towering walls, he began afresh, laying the foundation for a life guided by the principles of righteousness and unwavering faith. Over time, the city became his home, its labyrinth alleys and bustling marketplaces bearing witness to the steadfastness of his conviction. Amidst the turbulence of city life, LUT found comfort in the companionship of his wife. In the fullness of time, LUT and his wife were blessed with 2 daughters, their laughter filling the halls of their humble abode. As they grew, LUT's daughters became the embodiment of righteousness and obedience, their hearts attuned to the divine call that echoed through the corridors of their father's soul. With each passing day, LUT imparted upon them the teachings of their faith, nurturing within them the seeds of virtue and compassion. They listened with immersed attention to his words, their eyes alight with the fire of understanding as they absorbed the wisdom of their father's guidance. Yet, amidst the warmth of familial love, a shadow lingered over their household. Though LUT's wife stood faithfully by his side, her heart remained untouched by the divine message that had stirred her husband's soul. Despite his earnest pleas, she turned a deaf ear to the call of righteousness, her spirit adrift in the currents of worldly desires. As time slipped by, the city of Sodom revealed its true nature, unraveling itself before LUT's very eyes. The people had drifted away from the straight path, their hearts consumed by practices that defied the very essence of divine decree. In the streets of Sodom, vice and corruption ran rampant, their vines weaving through the fabric of society like a poison that seeped into the souls of men. The air hung heavy with the stench of immorality, the echoes of shamelessness reverberating through the alleyways and market squares. There was no shame to be found amongst the people of Sodom. They celebrated in their sins, flaunting their rebelliousness against the natural order ordained by the Creator. The men of Sodom exhibited a peculiar preference. Their affections turned not towards women, as was established, but towards their own kind. It was then that LUT understood the true purpose of his divine mission: to bear witness to the transgressions of the people, to confront the darkness that lurked within their midst, and to guide them towards the path of righteousness and redemption. As LUT sought to guide them back to the path of righteousness, his words fell upon deaf ears, drowned out by the noise of rebellion. The people of Sodom, with hearts hardened by their own arrogance, scoffed at his warnings, mocking him as an outsider, an outcast. He was a voice crying out in the wilderness. "Kick Lut out," they cried, their voices rising in unison against the messenger of God. "If you want to be clean, then you're in the wrong place," they sneered, their words dripping with contempt and scorn. As the people of Sodom continued to gather in their rebelliousness, they would argue and dispute, casting doubt upon the purity of Lut's intentions and the righteousness of his cause. In the face of their relentless opposition, Lut turned to the heavens with a prayer that echoed through the depths of his soul. "O Allah, save me and my family from the abominations they commit." Some amongst the people of Sodom smirked at his words, their faces twisted with disdain. "If you think you are too pure," they taunted, "then leave this city and be gone from our sight." Yet still, Lut remained steadfast, his resolve unshaken by their threats and mockery. Meanwhile, amidst the unfolding saga of Lut's struggle, the echoes of another divine encounter resonated across the desert sands. From the records of Ibrahim's story, a remarkable event unfolded. A visitation by three angels, guised as men, messengers of divine news that would shape the course of history. Once they delivered their message to Ibrahim and Sarah, the celestial messengers journeyed onwards towards Sodom. Their purpose remained veiled in the mystery of divine insight. What message did they bear for the inhabitants of that city? What fate awaited those who strayed so far from the path of righteousness? One day, as the sun was starting to dip beneath the horizon, Lut's daughters tended to their flock in the dry fields surrounding the city of Sodom. As they guided their sheep through the parched landscape, their eyes caught sight of three strangers making their way towards them. The strangers were unlike any travelers the daughters had encountered before. Their features radiated an otherworldly aura. Their presence commanded attention even from a distance. Dressed in robes that bore no trace of travel, they moved with a light grace that set them apart from the ordinary people of Sodom. Intrigued by the arrival of these mysterious visitors, Lut's daughters hastened back to their home, their hearts nervous with curiosity and wonder. Breathless with unrest, the daughters relayed the news of the stranger's arrival to their father, highlighting their remarkable appearance. Feeling a sense of urgency and an overwhelming responsibility, Lut wasted no time as he hurried to greet the three visitors before any of the people of Sodom could notice their arrival. With a heart heavy with anticipation and a soul burdened by his divine duty, he extended a warm and heartfelt invitation to the strangers, inviting them into his humble abode as honored guests. As he ushered them into the sanctuary of his home, Lut's heart raced with a mixture of apprehension and determination. The pressure mounted upon him, for he knew all too well the consequences that awaited should the people of Sodom discover the presence of these men. As Lut guided the visitors through the winding streets of Sodom, a heavy silence hung in the air. Lut sought to break the tension with cautious words, his voice mixed with a sense of urgency and unease. In hushed tones, he spoke of the pervasive evil that gripped the hearts of the people. His words carried a weight of implicit meaning, a subtle plea for understanding and intervention in the face of overwhelming degeneracy. Yet, to his apprehension, the three men remained silent, their stoic demeanor a stark reminder of the mystery that surrounded their true identity and purpose. Unbeknownst to Lut, the three visitors bore prior knowledge bestowed upon them by the Almighty. In the depths of divine wisdom, they had been instructed not to bring about the punishment upon the people of Sodom until the prophet of those people, Lut himself, had made it apparent to them that the people deserved such retribution. When they finally arrived at Lut's humble dwelling, LUT took a glance to ensure that no prying eyes bore witness to their arrival. He moved swiftly to close the door behind them. The heavy thud of wood against wood echoed through the chamber, sealing them within the sanctity of his home and shielding them from the outside world. In the dimly lit confines of his abode, the silence became anxious. The flickering light of the oil lamps and candles cast long shadows upon the walls, lending an eerie ambience to the scene unfolding before them. With measured steps, LUT led his guests further into the heart of his home, his eyes rushing nervously to and fro, ever vigilant for signs of intrusion or discovery. As LUT sought to safeguard the three visitors within his home, unbeknownst to him, a shadow of treachery lurked in the depths of his own household. His wife, swayed by the whispers of doubt and temptation, succumbed to the allure of deception, betraying the trust that had been placed in her by her husband. With a heart heavy with deceit, LUT's wife secretly dispatched a message to the men of Sodom, her words a sinister echo of her inner turmoil. "There are 3 handsome men in our home," she relayed, her voice trembling with a mixture of fear and anticipation. In the heart of the city, the news spread like wildfire, igniting a frenzy of curiosity and desire. The men of Sodom, consumed by their limitless lusts and wickedness, wasted no time in rallying to the call, their footsteps echoing through the narrow streets as they converged upon LUT's doorstep. Meanwhile, within the confines of his home, LUT remained oblivious to the plotting unfolding beyond his sight. His heart filled with a sense of duty and devotion, he tended to his guests with unwavering hospitality, his mind consumed by the thoughts of righteousness and divine providence. And so, as the evening descended upon the city, a gathering storm of hostility began to brew outside LUT's humble abode. The men of Sodom converged upon the Prophet's doorsteps, their faces contorted with outrage. With voices raised in accusation, they confronted LUT, their words dripping with venom and disdain. "We know that you are hosting 3 men within your home," they uttered, their eyes blazing with fury. "You dare defy our order and shelter strangers within your walls?" Summoning every ounce of courage and resolve within him, LUT spoke out to the men within the confines of his home. "These are my guests," LUT declared, his voice ringing out with unwavering authority. "Under my roof they are under my protection, and I will not betray the sacred bonds of hospitality." With each passing moment, the tension between them grew, the air crackling with the threat of violence. LUT spoke out to them once more, his voice resolute. "Take the women from the village," LUT requested, "and leave my guests in peace." The men of Sodom scoffed at his offer, their faces lustful with evil. "We are not interested in them," they grinned, their intentions dark and malicious. "You know what we want." In the face of their wickedness, LUT felt a surge of righteous anger course through his veins, his heart heavy with sorrow for the depths to which his people had fallen, for he knew that the path they had chosen led only to destruction and despair, a path shrouded in darkness and devoid of mercy. LUT braced himself against the door, feeling the relentless onslaught of the men outside. With each thunderous blow against the sturdy wood, LUT's resolve staggered, his heart heavy with the realization of his solitary plight. Unlike the men of Sodom, LUT had no men to support him, no tribe to rally to his aid. In this moment of danger, he stood alone, his faith his only shield against the storm of chaos that raged outside. "This is a distressful and difficult day. If only I had a power to lean on," he cried out. As the chaotic men outside LUT's door threatened to break it down, the tension in the air reached a fever pitch. LUT braced himself for the inevitable clash. But then, just when it seemed that all hope was lost, a miracle unfolded before his eyes. In an instant, The three strangers who had sought refuge within his home rose to their feet, their faces radiant with celestial light. Their resolute expressions spoke of determination as they turned towards LUT, their eyes ablaze with divine purpose. "Do not fear, LUT," they spoke, their voices resounding with an authority of heaven. "We are the messengers of Allah. They cannot harm you. We have come to these people as a punishment you promised and that they doubted." Overwhelmed by the magnitude of the revelation, LUT fell to his knees, tears streaming down his cheeks as he beheld the glory of divine intervention. In that moment, the weight of his burdens lifted, replaced by a sense of awe and wonder that transcended mortal understanding. With trembling hands and a heart overflowing with gratitude, LUT listened as the angels delivered their sacred message. "Take your family and leave this city by tonight," they commanded, their words a solemn decree from the heavens above. "Do not look back, no matter what you may hear." With unwavering resolve, LUT heeded the call of divine wisdom, gathering his daughters and wife close as they prepared to depart from the city that had been their home. As the violent mob surged forward, their anger reaching a climax, a divine intervention unfolded with breathtaking clarity. One of the angels that was guised as one of the handsome men stepped forward and flung open the door with a gesture of unearthly grace. In an instant, the angel blew from his hand a powerful gust of wind that swept forth, enveloping the faces of the men in a swirling storm of divine energy. Caught off guard by the sudden onslaught, the men recoiled in confusion, their eyes stinging from the force of the wind. Temporarily blinded, they stumbled backward, their shouts of rage drowned out by the symphony of celestial power. In their disorientation, the men accused LUT of sorcery, their minds clouded by fear and suspicion. With trembling voices and shaking limbs, they vowed to return in the morning. As they hobbled back to their homes, their faces contoured with pain and confusion, they fumbled blindly along the narrow streets, their fingers tracing the rough walls for guidance. In the quiet moments before the sun rose, Jibreel, the angelic messenger of Allah, descended upon the city in all his celestial splendor. He stood stoically on a rock and just for a moment observed the calm before commencing the task he was sent down to do. Then, with a single sweep of his mighty wing, he summoned forth a power beyond mortal comprehension, causing the very earth beneath the city to tremble and quake. As the ground rumbled beneath their feet, the people of Sodom awoke from their slumber, their minds clouded with fear and confusion. In a panicked frenzy, they spilled out of their homes, their eyes wide with terror as they sought to make sense of the chaos unfolding around them. With the tip of his wing, Jibreel lifted the city from its earthly area, suspending it in the air like a fragile jewel dangling from the sky above. The sight was both magnificent and terrifying, a testament to the awesome power of divine judgment that loomed over the city like a sword prepared to strike. As the people of Sodom gazed upon the spectacle before them, their hearts filled with dread and despair. LUT and his daughters forged ahead, their resolve unwavering in the face of impending catastrophe. They navigated the trembling ground with steadfast determination, heeding the angelic directive to flee without hesitation. Yet, LUT's wife found herself at the very edge of the area being lifted. In that fateful instant, she faltered, her heart torn between the past she knew and the uncertain future that lay ahead. In that fleeting moment of hesitation, she sealed her fate, forever bound to the destiny of the city she could not leave behind. As the land along with the people of Sodom was lifted towards the sky, a profound scream descended upon the once thriving city. The earth trembled with the weight of divine judgment, and the heavens themselves seemed to weep tears of fire upon the doomed inhabitants below. Baked clay stones, ignited with celestial flames, rained down from the heavens like fiery meteors, each one bearing the name of its intended target. With each impact, the earth shook and the air filled with the anguished cries of the condemned, their voices rising in terror. In the chaos and devastation, Jibreel raised the land and then turned it upside down, hurling its inhabitants into the abyss below. As they plummeted towards the earth, the ground above them collapsed, burying them beneath a shroud of dust and debris. With a deafening roar, the earth reclaimed its own, swallowing the city of Sodom whole and wiping its existence from the face of the earth. In the blink of an eye, the once proud city lay in ruins, its buildings reduced to dust. The impact of the divine retribution upon the city of Sodom was so profound that it left behind a scar upon the earth, a testament to the awesome power of divine judgment. The force of the raised land being hurled back into the ground created a crater of an unimaginable depth, a gaping gorge that plunged into the very heart of the earth. As the land crumbled and the dust settled, the once proud city lay buried beneath the rubble, its memory lost to the records of time. In its place stood a desolate wasteland of scorched earth where nothing could thrive. Seasons came and went, their passage marked by the shifting sands and howling winds that swept across the lifeless plains. Time seemed to stand still in the shadow of the crater, its depths a yawning abyss that defied the passage of years. But amidst the desolation, a transformation began to take shape, a gradual change that unfolded with the passage of time. As the seasons wore on, rains fell from the heavens, filling the crater with water. A sea had formed, but it was unlike any other, a vast expanse of dark, murky water that stretched as far as the eye could see. Its depths were bottomless, its surface shrouded in mist and shadow, as if cloaked in the veil of divine judgment. No life stirred within its depths, no plant grew upon its shores. It was a sea devoid of light and warmth, a stark contrast to the vibrant abundance of the world beyond its borders. Today, that sea is known as the Dead Sea. With its unnaturally high salt content, the Dead Sea stands as a testament to the fate that had befallen the city of Sodom. And so, if you ever find yourself in the presence of this sea, contemplate and realize that you are standing in an area that bore witness to the wrath of Allah, a reminder of the eternal struggle between good and evil, light and darkness, and the enduring power of divine justice.